Welcome to this video tutorial. In this video tutorials we will touch some of the things that we have learned during the different units of statistics too. So I recommend you to pause the video and read carefully the statement, and then after that I will develop the solution. Well, in this case we are interested in analyze if the proportion of employees that they are in favor of some economic special measure are greater than the proportion of wages earners or employees that they are in favor or not of this measure. So we have to sample. We are in front of the dichotomicus experiment to be in favor or not. So we have a sample of 200 employers that they are in favor 118, so we have a proportion of 0.59. We have another sample that there are 250 employees or wage earners that they are in favor 138, so we have a proportion of a sample proportion of 0.552. We have to do the test with a level of significance of 1%. So if we build the structure of the hypothesis testing, we have the null hypothesis that the population proportions are equal to 0, from the alternative that the proportion of employees in favor of the measure is greater than the proportion of wages earners. So when we develop the test statistic, we have to assume the null hypothesis, and we have to assume the null hypothesis in all the parameters of all the distribution that we are analyzing. So we have the difference between sample proportions, that is normal, and the difference between the expected values, as you can see in the null hypothesis, is going to be 0, so the difference between the population proportions is equal to 0, and we have to arrange the standard deviation of the distribution in order to assume that both proportions are going to be equal. If we substitute P sub A and P sub B by P, a generical proportion equal to both groups, we have the expression that you can see on the slide. But we have to estimate this proportion because we don't know, and the best way to analyze or to estimate this proportion is to assume that there are no difference between both samples. So how many people we have that they are in favor and how many people we have in total. So we have in favor 188 from employers and 138 for wages earners, and we have in total 200 plus 250 in persons. So the final estimate of this proportion is equal to 0.568. So finally we have a distribution that is normal with the expected value equal to 0 and standard deviation 0.047. So if we standardize this value and we compute the test for doing the contrast of the hypothesis testing, we have 0.59 minus 0.552, and notice that there's a little typing mistake in the denominator that should have to be 0.057. If this point is outside the critical value, that is in that case is a normal that led to the right side, a probability of 0.01, that this point is 2.33, we will reject the null hypothesis. As this statistic is equal to 0.885 and is not greater than 2.33, we cannot reject the null hypothesis, so we have to consider that both proportions are equal and the proportion of the employers is not greater than the proportion proportion of wages earners.